Setting up your meeting for YouTube Live. Hello. Hi, YouTube. Here we are with our live today about how to homeschool in Florida. And we're going to talk about the legal requirements, right, Jenny?
Yes.
Because we've done a lot of evaluations and we're very surprised and saddened, really, for the families who are like, what statute, what Florida laws, what do you mean? And when you're registered with your county as a homeschooler, you need to know these laws and mandates because you're required to have them. And honestly, they're really good for a homeschool. They really are. Don't you think, Jenny? It's not like they're asking you things to do that are ridiculous. It's things that will help you and your evaluator flesh out a better educational plan, you know, for you and your kids and help you stay on track, right?
Yeah. And it basically makes a scrapbook for you that you can go back and look at the end of the year and you can see the dates of when you did things and how your child grew from the beginning to the end. And fantastic.
Yep. The law requires that portfolio in there. And that's what she means by scrapbook. It kind of helps you. And it doesn't have to be paper. We're going to talk about that a little bit. It can be digital, but it does help you see your beginnings, your endings, where you've gone, your journey. It's a nice memory thing, but also very powerful to the learning that has taken place. All right. So people don't know who we are and why we feel like we have any credibility to talk about this. Why do we feel like we know what we're talking about? So we're very briefly going to tell why we feel like we're super qualified to talk about this situation. Okay. So initially I was a public school teacher for kids with special needs. And so I did all the paperwork and legalities of that all the time. I taught with general ed teachers, special ed teachers. And so I know it from that mindset as far as the law and things that really you might not know if you have a child who has an IEP, an individualized education plan, that those things still can be useful in the homeschool realm. And so I do feel like I can speak to I have spoken to a lot of parents in that regard as a homeschooling mom. So as a homeschooling mom, I found out as a teacher also with a certification in the state of Florida that I was able to be the evaluator for my kids. And that frankly kind of weirded me out. I felt like, wait a minute, I even called them. I was like, isn't this a conflict of interest? Like, I don't get it, really. Like, I wouldn't be able to do this in school, right? If I was a public school teacher and my child went to the school that I taught at, which that did happen, and maybe they needed some testing. If I was the only person in that school that gave that testing, which I did a lot, right, when I was a teacher, they wouldn't let me do that. They would have somebody else come in and give my kid the test, right? But the homeschool realm is different. And they were like, no, we assure you it is okay. So what I did before I started evaluating my kids or anyone else is I went to the county and I went to their portfolio reviews. So what happens in the state of Florida and in our county is some families are called in by the county to make sure that they're doing all the things they need to do as homeschool parents. This is not, they just can't at random call anybody up and, you know, say, hey, you need to come in with your portfolio. No, it's not like that. They need to be like reported by someone else. Usually this involves a messy divorce that one of the parents would call in the other parent, or they would be like a student that was in public school and they had horrible attendance and then they dropped out or said that they were going to be homeschooled. There's kind of a red flag with the county on those cases, and they check up and make sure that they are in attendance and they're not truant. And so those families might be called in, or any other issue where there is a discrepancy on whether or not you're doing your job and somebody basically reports you, and that's why you're called in. So I took it upon myself to go into those meetings and learn how they did the portfolio review, not only because I was going to be responsible to evaluate my kids, but I started a little evaluation business. This was way before Jenny and I, you know, ever did anything like we're doing now, but I had a little side hustle as an evaluator, and I met a lot of families. I also was a leader in one of our local support groups for homeschoolers. And as being on that leadership team, which was all volunteers, just us volunteer homeschool parents, we went to many leadership conferences. If you don't know about the homeschool convention in Orlando every Memorial Day weekend, that is an amazing thing to go to. There's tons of workshops for families, but there's also the day before it starts for families, there is a leadership conference that is for people in the homeschool community who might have co-ops, or their tutors or teachers, or teachers at co-ops, or they're creating some kind of a school, but they provide leadership training. And those were people in the homeschool community that are highly qualified. They have businesses, or, they know what they're talking about, and they were training other people. So I went to many trainings like that as a homeschool mom. And so that's why I do feel like I'm qualified. And also I've sat in so many evaluations with parents and families where I feel like so sad for them, because the county where we live, they just sign you off as a homeschooler, which gives you lots of freedom, and it's wonderful. But then if you don't know that you need an evaluation and a portfolio, and that there is a mandate, you're still going to get this letter. And many of our families come to us and they're like, we got a letter from the county that said we're going to lose our rights, our child. Or I got one 2 weeks ago. I didn't tell you this, Jenny. She's like, my son, he got a letter. It says his homeschool is terminated because I didn't know that I needed this evaluation, and it's terminated. And and I was like, it's okay. Like, I'm going to quell your, nerves and calm down. It's all right. That's just like a legality thing. And so we feel like we bridge that gap, and we have seen many different circumstances and help many families relate this law to their daily life, right? And make it something that is workable and valued, because like we said at the beginning, it creates this beautiful kind of journey and scrapbook for you, but it also helps you get your legal requirements met. So that's why I feel like I'm highly qualified. And I could say that my experience paralleled Jenny. So you don't have to go into all the details, Jenny. I know I went long. We want to get to the meat and bones, but tell us a little bit why you feel like you're qualified to talk about the laws in Florida for homeschoolers.
I have been doing evaluations for a very long time too, and I was a public school teacher as well. And I had kids come into my class who were homeschooled, and I was also at a school where a lot of kids were truant. So I know how the county kind of keeps track of these kids. But I was also a reading coach, and I'm able to help people. When they come to me for evaluations, I'm able to help them celebrate and also show them ways that they can help their children. And we know the statutes, and we want to make sure that we're helping them keep up with their logs and keep up with everything in case the county did come to them and request the records. We want them to be prepared, and we want them to know that they're covered and that they've done the things that they're supposed to do. So, and we do find a lot of people don't know them. So that's why we want to show you, you need to know the law, whatever state you're in, you need to know the law and know what's required of you so that you can make sure you're covering yourself. And we want to cover ourselves and help you cover yourselves too.
And I'm just going to say also that Jenny was also a trainer for the county, where she trained teachers on certain things related to curriculum. So when you get in those experiences where you are trained to be a trainer, you take workshops that help you kind of read between the lines and know the questions to ask. I feel like you've done that a lot for me, Jenny, and clarified things, because you can look at things from a different perspective and like the end goal in mind, and like an administrative mind. Do you know what I mean? And so I do feel like that is very beneficial, your viewpoint in all of this.
Thank you. And I was a homeschool mom too.
Yes. And so all of this kind of tumbled over for both of us into our homeschool journey as evaluators. Jenny also then evaluated my kids when I stopped doing the evaluations. And so, and you tested Wyatt once. So anyway, that's why we're qualified to speak about these things. And we do feel like you can ask us any questions. And if we don't know the answers, we know where to find them too. All right. So I am going to share the screen now, don't you think?
Yeah, let's look at the law.
And we're going to look at the actual statute so that we can let me see, share sound. That's important as well. Okay. So you can see what this is. So here we go. This is the Florida website, legal, I don't know what even that stands for, leg-state.fl.us. All the numbers, all the letters, chapter 1002, and then there's all these little dots, okay? But really, just, we're not going to get into all this crazy detail stuff, but you want to know what these numbers mean down here, okay? So home education program, and this talks about the specifics of what it is. It says that the parent is not required to hold a valid Florida teacher certificate, that the parent is the one that maintains the home ed program, and they are the ones in charge of notifying them in writing, using their child's full names, addresses, birth dates, who is enrolled, about the fact, first of all, that they will be homeschooling them. Okay, so there are forms in each county for that, from the state also, but you do need to, first of all, notify them, yes, that you are starting a homeschool journey. And this date is very important. Jenny, do you want to speak to that date of when you let the county know?
Yeah, you need to let them know within 30 days of when you're going to start. And then the next year, you will need to turn in an evaluation to them before that date. That is your start date.
Kind of like whenever you write the letter, whenever they receive it, they'll let you know. You can call them and find out, what is my anniversary date?
That's your anniversary. That's right.
And they keep track. That's why they
do.
send those letters out. They keep track every year, every day. I've been to the office. You know, I told you I went to evaluations, and it was in that office with the secretary, and that's on her to-do list every day. Who has sent their annual evaluation form? Who has not? Who do I need to send a notification out that they're truant and they're non-compliant? And so they are keeping track. And if you miss your date, you will get a letter. So not usually, you're not going to get a letter beforehand. You're not going to get a note that says, hey, your evaluation is due in 2 weeks.
They're not going to remind you.
No, they're going to tell you, hey, you didn't turn in an evaluation. Your child's homeschool journey will be terminated.
Right. You're late.
And we must say also that that registering your child with the county that you live in Florida, that is one way of doing it. You don't have to register with the county. We're not going to talk about that today. That's a whole nother live stream, right? But there's private schools and umbrella schools. But we are speaking only to those students that are registered with the state of Florida with their county school district. That's who we are speaking to today. All right. Does that make sense? And the 30 days, within 30 days, it doesn't have to be, you know, the very first day that you begin. Don't feel like, oh no, we started 2 weeks ago, or we can't start until we notify them. No, within 30 days, it's kind of a soft date there of starting the homeschool journey. You need to let the county know. All right, so the superintendent is going to accept your notice. They're going to register you as a homeschooler, and they are going to have in there what it says, assign. They may not. Oh, I love this one. They may not assign a grade level. They don't need your social security number or any of those things. Okay, your kid is just a homeschooler with the county, and I do believe they send a letter of, we received your intent to homeschool. I always saved my copy, intent to homeschool. I made a hard copy. I saved it on a digital copy. And but good to know that you don't need to turn in a grade level and an achievement level or a social security number or any other information. All right. If you terminate your homeschool journey, you also need to send in a form within 30 days of the termination. Okay. And there's been some
evaluation.
Yes, and then the evaluation, your final evaluation will need to be made also before your child is considered terminated from the homeschool. All right. So this is the meat that we're really going to talk about right now. And it is the things that you need to keep on a daily basis to make your homeschool compliant. So Number D says the parent shall maintain a portfolio of records and materials. So the portfolio, this was the thing we were talking about that helps you create this memory book, but also helps you meet your legal requirements. In your portfolio, you need a few things. The first thing is a log of educational activities that is made contemporaneously with the instruction and designates by title any reading material used. So in this log, right, it is it's teacher plans. It's like lesson plans. You don't have to make them ahead of time, although here at the Homeschool Well, we've done lots of workshops, and we believe that making your lesson plans ahead of time will benefit you as a homeschool mom. That's also another live stream to talk about, but legally, you can just write it down as you go that day and as you do the things. Contemporaneously means parallel with the activities as you do them, and you don't need to plan ahead. So,
and sometimes that's awesome, because when you have a day where something just happens and you learned a ton, you just write it down, what you ended up doing.
Yeah, it's amazing because things change, life happens, and we get flexible. And that's the beauty of homeschooling. So take advantage of the fact that they tell you it only needs to be daily.
Right.
It's a good fun thing. Okay, and then you're designating the reading material that you use. And we call this the curriculum list, or the reading list, or the experience list, because for us and my family and Jenny, I had them tag along with us on many educational experiences that went down on our curriculum reading list, because that was something that was educational. Videos, there's a YouTube channel I always like to give a shout out to, called Smarter Every Day. And I mean, that thing is chock full. I use it for co-ops. I use it for myself sometimes when I just want to be entertained, but yet get some rich educational, like scientific facts about how things work. That, you better believe, goes down in the reading and the curriculum list that is part of your log and your lesson plans, that is part of your portfolio. The other part of your portfolio are samples. So this says any writings, worksheets, workbooks, or creative materials used or developed by the student. All right, so work samples. It doesn't have to be all on paper. I love that they say that. Think outside the box, okay? If you are a workbook person, that's fantastic. That workbook is part of your lesson plans and your work samples. I love that they have in here developed by the student, because Jenny, we just talked this morning about the evaluation that you did and how creative that this child is. Oh, yeah. And in the last few evaluations I've done, I have kids who have made YouTube channels and Instagram pages, and they're like vlogging, their educational journey. That is part of work samples, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Jenny, can you tell them the one most important thing about these work samples? I don't even have to say it. I know you know what it is.
I was just going to say it. Yes. And you want to make sure that whatever you have in there and whatever you show for your evaluation has a date on it, because that is how one can tell that your child has learned. Because if they, let's say, started a math workbook from August and they were working on addition, and then by the end of the year they were working on multiplication, when you have dates on those, then the evaluator or whoever is looking, or yourself actually, whoever's looking at your work can see the progression of learning throughout the year. So you definitely want to date your work samples, all of them, so that you can see what you did on what day and the learning that has taken place over the year.
And so as evaluators, I'm going to grab the form. I should have gotten it out beforehand, but I know that it's right here. As evaluators, the only thing that we have to fill out is this form. And the only statement on this form that speaks to anything about your child's ability, I'm going to read it verbatim, is right in the middle. And it says, upon review of the portfolio and or testing, because testing is another option for evaluation, but we are talking about your portfolio right now. So we've reviewed the portfolio is what it's saying. I find that this student has, and there's a blank, you can check that off, or has not, and there's another blank there, you can check that off. So 2 choices for us. They have or they have not demonstrated progress at a level commensurate with his or her ability. We love this statement. Commensurate just means it matches your child's level, or ability levels. So they have demonstrated progress at a level parallel or that matches their ability levels. So if you have a child that's 9 years old and they are working on first grade math, if that's their ability level and they show progress that year, then we check off they have met progress. We're looking at the child as a whole for these work samples. And so we like to say, and we've been taught, that it's a good idea to get 3 different subjects from 3 different times of the year. And they don't have to be a ton of things. Like your portfolio is not everything that you show to the evaluator. Just those 3 work samples from 3 times the year, they're dated and we can see progress, is going to show that their ability level is there and they're progressing through it. Okay.
Right. Think about it as an outsider looking in on your stuff. You know what your child has learned, but how do you prove to someone else what they've learned? The only way to do that is to show the chronological order of how it happened. So that,
that's a good point, is to show, like, to somebody that doesn't know your kiddo, something, it can't, like a book cover, we've gotten that before. Here's my work sample. There's a bunch of book covers. Like, we don't really see that your child has done anything. Like,
how do we know? Yeah.
If they're just reading these books, then you send us a video of them reading in August, and then they're reading in December, and then they're reading in June. So we can compare and you can see the progress that they've made. It's very easy for us to see progress, but we have to see their work samples.
Right.
And so that's why the samples of the work are in there. Okay. All right. Anything else we missed from there? We got
I think we beat that horse.
lesson plans, work samples, and a reading or curriculum list. I like to call it a curriculum list because it's more than just reading.
It could be anything.
Math and
materials.
Math, science, and materials list.
Videos. All right. Whatever.
Yeah. And so here's a couple other things about the portfolio. The parent shall determine the content of the portfolio. So we're not going to tell you have to pick, the state is not telling you have to pick any subjects to put in here. If you only, one woman I remember who did a training, she said, if you only study underwater basket weaving with your kid, and that's the only things that you have from your samples in there, that is your kid's homeschool. But that's silly. But you think about kids who have some concentrated, ability that they really focus on, and that's okay. Just get creative and don't feel pressured, don't feel burdened. You're celebrating their abilities. This is the important part. Preserve it for 2 years. Keep it someplace. If it's books, keep it in a binder or something. If it's digitals, keep it in digital files. Make it available upon inspection if requested by the district school superintendent or the district school superintendent's agent, like their secretary or something, upon 15 days of written notice. That means the county has to tell you 15 days ahead of time in writing that they need you to come with this portfolio from 2 years ago. And by law, you should have preserved it and you bring it up there. It doesn't have to be every single thing you did, remember? It's work samples that show their progress. All right.
Good point.
That makes sense?
All
right. So these other numbers here are talking about the evaluation. And so we're not going to really get into all of these details, but just know that that's part of the law, is that you need an evaluation. You can use the portfolio. So you select a teacher and who has a certificate in Florida to teach, and they have a discussion with the student. They look at the work samples, they fill out the form that I showed you. That's your evaluation choice number 1. Number 2 is that you have your child take a nationally normed student achievement test that's administered by a certified teacher. You could set that up on your own with anyone in the private realm. You can contact the public school and see if they have appointments for that with their clinicians or certified teachers, set that up with them. But a nationally normed student achievement test is a good thing to get every once in a while. We always loved it because what does it tell you? What does an achievement test tell? Do you want to tell that a little bit, Jenny?
It tells where your student falls based on other students, their age or in their grade. So
And
go ahead.
And in the specific subject area. So you will
Right.
get a report that says where they fall in line with other students their age and their grade in math and reading and whatever achievement test areas that you give them.
Mhm.
Okay. That's a second option. So either portfolio review, nationally normed achievement test, or you go to the school district to give them the state student assessment test, which currently is the FAST.
Right.
So you would set that up with the county, call them and say, I want to bring my child up to their zone school to take the test on FAST day. You're a taxpayer and it's in the law and they have to accommodate you. So just know
Right.
that. And sometimes the school does not understand. Whoever's answering the phone, they won't know what you're saying. So start with the school district, start there, call them, the homeschool office, they will know what you're talking about and they'll direct you to the right person to set that up.
Mhm.
And number 4 is the basically, so it shall be evaluated by an individual holding a valid active license pursuant to the provisions of this number right here. And when you click this, it basically talks about school psychologists and having maybe like an IQ test done by a school psychologist, or not the achievement test, but what's the other kinds of testing? I can't think of it. So
Right.
achievement tests, psychologists, school psychologists giving an IQ test or some other means. There's lots of details here that you can look at. And let's go back to the 5th one. And the 5th option of evaluation would be something that you and your school district agree upon. We can't speak to that because this would be a unique situation that you are in where it just doesn't make sense for you to get either the portfolio or the nationally normed student achievement test or the state student assessment test or a test by a school psychologist. But there is some special thing that you contact the homeschool office of your school district, of your county, and you come up with a plan for what will meet your evaluation needs. But one of these 5 options is going to satisfy your state evaluation requirement.
Mhm.
All right. All the rest of these words are fabulous, and you should go over them in your own time. We're not touching them. Those are the nuts and bolts. We have a couple of blogs that will be helpful to you if you want to just, first of all, if you don't live in the state of Florida, this blog talks about some other states, and there's links to the Department of Education where you can find out, find this interactive map. Hopefully it will come up. You
Can
click
you-
on any state to find your state's legal requirements here. And so that again is on our blog titled Keeping Homeschool Records That Meet State Requirements
At the
and then
homeschoolwell.com. Mhm.
at the homeschoolwell.com. Thank you. /blog. And then this is about portfolios, crafting an empowering homeschool portfolio, tips and strategies for success. And that is also at the homeschoolwell.com/blog. And you can find coordinating podcast episodes if you like to listen to our podcast on Spotify or Apple or our website, the homeschoolwell.com/podcast. So I think that wraps everything up.
Yep.
In a nutshell, just know your state requirements if you're in the state of Florida, because you do have them, and reach out to us if you have specific questions, because we can either answer them directly or we know where to find a resource to help you get the answers that are going to help you just calm down, right? And know you really are the best teacher for your child in this season of homeschooling. And it's a beautiful journey that Jenny and I, both had with our kids, and it's close to our heart. And that's our passion, is to help you create that with your families as well.
Yes. So let us know if this was helpful to you, or if you have any other questions, you can feel free to drop the comments below, and you can follow us online for more tips. You can sign up for our email for more tips and encouragement daily. We send out emails and Friday freebies. So
yeah, good exclusives.
Homeschoolwell.com.
Homeschoolwell.com. All right. And we'll see you next Wednesday on the YouTube live stream. Also, for more information, we're going to change the topics up. So if there's a topic that you need us to speak to, you can tell us that as well, and we will make content just for you.
Yes.
All right. Y'all have a great day.
Bye.